In prior videos, when talking about APIs, we have been using what's oftentimes referred to as a public and free API. It's an API that didn't require us to log in. We were simply able to use it online without any concerns. That's not how most APIs work, and in fact, most APIs online today, you have to and want to log in order to access them properly. For example, sending an email to somebody, you want to make sure only the proper person who can log in and send the email under your name. Or making stock trades, only the proper person should be able to do that. Therefore, you would have to authenticate to the API to perform the stock trade. So let's talk about one example of an API that we can use right here. I'm going to go out to GitHub. Now, GitHub is a great way to be able to help organize all of your information. Helps store scripts and programs and other projects that you might be working on. And the GitHub has an API. Specifically, if we go to docs.github.com, I believe that will give us to the documentation. Great. On the left-hand side here, we can see there is a REST API. Right there, REST API. And inside the REST API, we can view the reference. And there are a lot of different options for us to look at here. The simplest one that I'm going to go for here is under repositories. And once that opens up, we'll find an example for a user/repos option. Let's see, list organization, list repository. List repositories for the authenticated user. So here we have the address of /user/repos that will allow us to see all of the repositories that the currently logged in user has access to. Now, for us to be able to do this, we have to, one, be logged in, and then to perform the API call. It's not overly difficult. Just learning about how to authenticate is probably the biggest issue. First off, before we get too far, yes, we're seeing here is /user/repositories, but that is only the end of the address. Let me copy that. So that's the end of the address. What you now need the beginning of the address. And if we scroll up, we'll actually see the full URL. Oh, it's in there somewhere. There we go. It's api.github.com. So api.github.com/users/repos. That should be the full address for our new API. Now, in order to log into this, we need an authentication token. In order to get authentication tokens, well, we go back to GitHub. And as you can see with my picture up here, I'm currently logged in. I'm going to go ahead and create what's called a token. So I'm going to come down here so I clicked on my icon or my avatar, going to settings. And then under account settings, I'm going to scroll down until I see developer settings. Believe it or not, you're a developer. And then under developer settings, I'm going to click personal access tokens. I currently don't have any tokens, so I'm going to click over here, generate new token. It confirms who I am. Maybe confirms who I am. Okay, so it confirmed who I was and now takes me to creating a personal access token. Fairly simple process. We give this a description. I'm going to call this demo script. That is a friendly description. It's not overly important what you type in there. It's more for you and for your reference. How long do we want this to last? Well, I'm going to actually specify this to be 1 day. It's going to be 8, not 9, 8. And let's see, tomorrow is the 7th. 21. I'm actually going to specify it as 1 day because I want this token to automatically expire so that when you're watching this video, you can't attack my account. It then gives me lots of scopes or permissions that I want to specify. In this case, I'm just going to choose repo. I want to view the repositories. We talked about seeing that in the API. So I want to view the repositories, and that's all. Don't really care about workflows or creating users or anything along those lines. When it's all done, I'm going to click Generate Token, and it gives me the token right there. I'm going to copy that to my clipboard and then copy it into Notepad just so I don't lose it. Great. Now, if anything ever happens to this, if I think that token has been compromised, I will delete it and create a new one. Not super difficult. The process is built specifically for that. Okay, now that I have my token, I now want to try to access that API. The easiest way I find to test out APIs without having to program or script a whole bunch is, again, to use Postman. Great. Okay, so the Postman URL that we are looking for, we said was going to be this right here. Let's copy that. And before we go too far, let's look back at the documentation. So that was list repositories for the authenticated user. This documentation tells me, yes, this is going to be a GET request, not a POST, not a PUT, not a delete, just simply a GET request, which is what we've been working with all along. Parameters, for the most part, these parameters aren't overly necessary. It does tell us that we might want to choose accept to application /vnd GitHub v3 plus JSON. Yeah, we can also specify some timeframes in here, as well as page numbers. Yeah. For the most part, I'm going to set the application, the accept. So come back in here. That's going to be under headers. And I'm just going to type accept. And I'm just going to do a very simple application /JSON. I could be more specific as requested of me, but I'm not going to. If I click send, it gives me an error message saying, yeah, you know what? You have to authenticate against this. But that's fine because I have the authentication that I need. And what I need to do is I need to go back into my headers here, and I need to add in another key for my authentication options. Just going to come in here and I'm going to type in authorization. And then for the authorization, I type in token and I paste in the key, the personal access token that I got from GitHub right here. And that is my authorization. That is essentially my username and password combined in one big log string and will log me in with the appropriate permissions. At this point, I click send. And I see, oh yes, I actually have quite a few repositories down here as well as lots of information regarding them. That's awesome. And authentication is just that simple. Now, yes, I could have come here under authorization and I could have chosen token, bearer token, basic auth, and so on. However, this method I know works, and you stick with what you know. All right, so now that we have that, let's see how we can access this from a different format. For instance, if we come over here to the scripting pane, it will go to various options. I'm going to try curl, URL. Go ahead and copy that there. And let's just paste that in and run it. Before we paste it, let's actually check it out. So it starts off with curl. Again, it does the -- location, specifies it as a GET request, the URL of the API we're accessing. dash dash header to add one of the headers, and then dash dash header again to add the other header. Interesting thing to note here is the headers are all key value pairs. Key on the left is accept, colon, and then the value application JSON. Key on the left, authorization, colon, and then the token on the right hand side. And I hit enter, and I get all of the results right there to the screen. Great. Let's do the same thing again, this time through Python. Python requests client, copy that, go into Visual Studio Code. Let's create a new script here. Let's call this list repos.py. Not sure why right click's not working. And I can see, yep, I'm importing requests. I'm building up my URL here. My headers have my key and value pairs. This looks a little bit different than what it did from the CURL line. Again, however, I have the key on the left and then the value on the right, separated by colons. Finally, my response is my request.request, get type, URL, headers, and data, and then we print out the results to the screen. If I run this, and the results print out down at the bottom. And if I look through these results, well, I can see they are in fact JSON results, which I can then use my JSON formatting in order to get a little bit more detail and break through them and print out the information a little bit more friendly. For instance, let's comment out that print statement and let's do let's see, items equals response.json. Because I'm using JSON, I now need to import JSON. There we go. And now I can identify all of the repositories that I have. So for instance, for repository in I think just items. Let's see how this works. Print repository. And then specifically, I want to print out the name of that repository. Let's actually confirm that through the postman. Go away. All right, so I've got my items here, and then my repository name. That should work. Let's try it. So it will convert the data into JSON and then cycle through each one step at a time. And there we have it. It took a few seconds on my computer, so I paused the video, but we can see, yep, it went ahead and printed out the name of all of my repositories down here and just the name. All that other information that we identified in Postman, for instance, the full name, whether it's private, who the owner is, and so on, can all be included as well, such as the URL for the repository, can all be included as well. However, in this example, I just did the one.